You know why they're called splake? You know the reason? So brook trout, they used to call, common name was speckled trout. So speckled and lake, so put them together, splake. That's how splake got their name.
Welcome to the Paddle and Portage Podcast. We, and when I say we, I mean Joe Fredericks and myself. There he is. We're standing on Mink Lake on the edge of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, and it's a favorite lake for folks around here. Great swimming lake, good fishing lake. As a matter of fact, we were just out here less than a month ago doing some ice fishing.
Yeah, recent episode, fishing right down there near that huge wall and catching some splake, and bumped into a fan of the podcast. What up, Megan?
Hey, Megan. Big shout out. We appreciate you.
And we had been catching a fair amount of nice splake here and some other lakes this winter as well. And I think we just took it for granted about referencing splake.
Splake. Let's see. A splake is a fish.
Yes.
And
delicious.
It's very good. I know it's in like the trout family.
I think it's a char, actually.
Excuse me? What'd you call me? Well, I mean, this is the question. The question of the episode. What is a splake and where the heck do they come from?
I've started out on this journey to get that information documented for the podcast with the local Grand Marais Fisheries office and our old pal EJ, who we've had on numerous episodes throughout the years. And he said, look, I mean, the obvious answer to your question is a splake is a lake trout crossed with a brook trout. So then part two of the question to EJ, well, where do these things come from? You rear them down there? You raise them down at the Grand Marais office? No, they come from down by Lanesboro. In fact, EJ says, you should run down there and meet the people who work at the hatchery down there near the Root River and find out for yourself.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm the assistant supervisor here at Peterson State Fish Hatchery. Been here for 6 years and loving every day.
The splake that people catch in Minnesota, up in the Boundary Waters region, that they're coming from here.
Yep, so the splake come from the Peterson State Fish Hatchery and also some contribution from Crystal Springs. So on site, like I just said, what is a splake? So it's a cross between a lake trout and a brook trout. So at Peterson, we do have the lake trout on site, the females, and then in Crystal Springs, we have the male brook trout. And so during the process, we both are spawning the milt in Crystal and the eggs in Peterson. And so we spawn the eggs here at Peterson and have the milt delivered to on site and fertilize the eggs with the brook trout milt and the lake trout eggs on the lake trout eggs, and we create the splake.
Ryan took me on a tour of sorts of the Peterson Fish Hatchery. And of course, when it comes to raising fish, the key ingredient is water.
So what we have here is our spring. So this is where it all starts. So imagine some of those big earthen ponds right now. We're standing on one. These are all filled with big rock gabions. Most of the spring comes down, bubbles up there, multiple little springs, and then it feeds in here, builds up. But so this is the inside of the spring. We have a few different head boxes here. One of this fills what we were going to call the nursery. The second one right there feeds what we call the 20-footers, the smaller circular tanks, and then we have one down there that feeds the 30-foot. Like I said, this is a big lake, and then it supplies by each one of these pipes that go to a building or rearing units. This used to actually be a pond above water. I guess it was just probably a spring, and then it came out on the hillside and went into the river. When it was a private hatchery, it was an open pond. It was open like that, and they fed their series of other ponds. And now the state came, isolated the spring. They would pump it, constantly pump it. They put all this rock, laid all the pipe, and then let that flow back into here to build it up. But it technically is still a pond, but it's underground. It's a little more biosecure for animals not to get in, other diseases to be transported by birds throwing dead fish or pooping or doing whatever, you know.
With the abundance of cold water in place, it's also essential when raising fish that you have food.
This is our feed room. When fish are small, they get small feed. When fish get big, they get big feed. And needs are different. More protein in the small feeds, less protein, more of gonad or gamete development into the big feeds that we feed the brood. Like these are some that are going to the little brookies right now. And then we go all the way up to I guess I can go out of here, our big 9mm that those big 25, 28-inch lake trout get. Nice. So, and this stuff has a little more stuff focusing on egg development or gonad development. So that's the brood feed, that's production feed. Mm-hmm. And then we store it in a freezer. Or not a freezer, but just somewhere that stays consistent. And this is an automatic feeder right here. So this is what feeds this early stage. We hand feed out there, but this is just a big belt on a clock timer, and this slowly goes and spills in.
I'm surprised they're not just going to town on it.
Yeah, the driftless brook trout are pretty shy, pretty natural, you know, native, wild, I guess you would call it, versus domestic. So they're pretty shy, but don't really like us too much. See, they'll wait till it gets around and then they'll pick at it.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, podcast listeners. We're the Shirleys, and we own Sawbill Canoe Outfitters, located right at the Sawbill Lake entry point, just inland from Tofty. April at Sawbill means we're on ice out watch. Our last measurement showed over 20 inches of ice still, but Minnesotans know conditions change rapidly up here. We post pictures and videos of the ice out saga every year on our social media, both Facebook and Instagram. You can also find updates on our blog at sawbill.com.
2026 is an exciting year for Sawbill, as it marks our 70th year in business. Sawbill was founded by my grandparents, Frank and Mary Alice Hansen, who then sold it to my folks, Bill and Cindy. Dan and I are entering our 11th season now as the third generation owners. When we talk with paddlers in our shop, we are pulling information based on our deep roots and history in this particular corner of the wilderness. If you haven't yet explored the Sawbill area, give us a call. We'd be happy to chat about why it's our favorite place in the Boundary Waters.
You can find us at sawbill.com or give us a ring at 218-663-7150. Cheers!
And support comes from Borderland Lodge, located on Gunflint Lake, up the trail, the Gunflint Trail. We've recently been up at Borderland, talked with Steph about some of the things that the lodge is facing at this time. Most notably, her husband Dave is in a battle with cancer, stage 4 cancer, and it's a very serious situation, but they're rising up. Steph and family and friends, residents of the Gunflint Trail, rallying together, keep operations going up at Borderland. In fact, they're getting ready for what could be one of their best years yet. That's sort of the energy that Steph and the team are carrying into the 2026 season. The food up at Borderland, arguably the best food on the Gunflint Trail. They've got some merch for sale right now, too, that directly helps operations at Borderland and helps Dave out as he's battling this very serious situation with cancer. Good people up at Borderland Lodge. Find them on social media, their website. Book a stay this summer. Everything's going to be up and running at Borderland. Looking forward to a great season with them on Gunflint Lake. Borderland Lodge. Thanks for their support. After discussing the water and the food, Ryan and I stepped into a large room full of tanks. Inside the tanks were thousands, literally thousands of fish. The room had the vibe of a science lab with red lights up above and just different kind of energy in the room compared to most of the rest of the fish hatchery. Definitely had the vibes of being in a science lab.
So the formula here at this facility, I can go out there and show you, but we take the female lake trout. At this facility, we take the eggs, we dry spawn them, so we don't let them touch the water. And then at that time when we're spawning, we have someone go over to Crystal where they have the brook trout males, and they strip the males, and we cross the two gametes, the milt and the eggs together, and make the splake. Here we spawn eggs in the fall. Eggs are taken for male females and then crossed with the males. Here, brought into this is what we call the incubation system. We put our eggs in here, roughly about 15,000 a piece in these little things. Water will trickle down. Eggs will sit in here till they, what we call eye up, and we'll send them through these egg pickers, pick out the white ones, the dead ones, and then push on the eyed ones, and they'll hatch, and then they'll go into those circulars. But the weird thing about our system, the nice thing is we have a chilling system. So that big AC looking unit right there is a chiller. So we spawn brook trout for about 6 weeks out of the fall and lake trout for about 3 weeks out of the fall. So they have 3 different takes. We go in every week. So like I said, 6 weeks, we have 6 different takes. We go in to check the fish if they're ripe or green, and we'll spawn the ripe ones, set the green ones aside till they come ripe. And so we have 6 different lots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're all 6 weeks apart. With this chiller, we can make them all a certain temperature. All variety of temperatures dictate their metabolism, and they all hatch on one day. Because they're poikilotherms, they dictate their metabolism based on water temperature. So warmer water, these fish would grow. 48 degrees cold, that's still 0.6 of an inch a month is quite a bit. So we have a monitoring system too to make sure what temperatures are the stacks. We can go in the office and keep an eye on our phones. If things get out of hand, power outages, shut this off. We can do the math to recalibrate these.
After looking at the smaller fish that would eventually come to places like the Boundary Waters, Ryan and I stepped back outside to look inside some of the yurt-like structures that also held fish. Some of the fish were huge, like the ones inside the lake trout yurt.
These are the big old Lakers. These, oh, what are they? These are 7 years old.
7-year-old lake
Right,
trout.
7, yeah, 7 years old. Yeah, you can hop out there. There's no feed out there, but yeah, these are the bigger ones. They might be a little shy. We're trying with Corey in Duluth. You'll see some of them. One tag fell off. He's doing a tag retention study to see if some of these GPS, they're not GPS, they're just mock-ups, but some of those GPS tags will stay on, but I don't know if they work. Some of them have been falling off on us. Yeah, those are 7-year-old lake trout. So this year, we'll go in this tank, we'll separate it out, and we're gonna take these lake trout females, these are all females, and we'll take the eggs out of them. And then while we're taking the eggs, we'll have someone go to Crystal and grab the milk that they're taking. So simultaneously, we'll time that and put that milk on these eggs from these lake trout, and they will produce those splake for next year. When they tried this, they tried doing it opposite. They tried doing the female brook trout with the male lake trout. And in this situation, those brook trout are a little bit smaller than these bigger lake trout, and they were having troubles with like the development of the little sac fry and stuff like that. So it wasn't very successful. So in our situation, we do this probably because they're a little bigger female, so the egg is a lot larger with some of the milt. Otherwise, if we did the brook trout method, the egg might be smaller, and that might be too big of a fish developing in a smaller egg. So our feed regimens on brood is usually a little less than like max production. So we want to keep them, we want to make sure they have enough to develop their eggs and milt, but we don't want them huge and fat. We don't want them overweight. We got to keep them still good. But I'll show you the yearling brook trout. These ones are a little smaller. These are probably around 8 inches. But there is 20,000 in here. These are all yearling brook trout. So these will be stocked out all this coming May, so soon. They are headed to the Vermilion, so Metro, East Metro. They're headed locally here, Lanesboro area, southeastern Minnesota. Lake City area has some, and I think Park Rapids has some, so southern Minnesota. And just like how many fish are in here, usually in these tanks, we're kind of limited on water, but we can produce a little over a ton, a 30-footer. Those we can produce about 1,500 pounds, so close to a ton, but not that. Here, big tank, not a lot of water, so the flow hits us. But so this is what you guys are waiting for. These are all splake. They're tiny though, so these are going to be that 5 to 6 inches, that 30 to the pound, 20 to the pound, going out aerial or just backcountry stocking. I feel like you guys have to do. These are all splake. There's currently 120,000 in here, so 60 and 60. So they're split up. Yep, these are coming up Cook County. Yep, guaranteed. Yep, this is all going there. Yeah.
Spending time with Ryan was one of the highlights of the day. He described himself as a good old country boy who likes to go hunting and fishing around southeastern Minnesota.
I'm a country boy, growing up in a small town, so I don't mind.
He's been up to the Boundary Waters a few times to drop off fish as well as collect some eggs from lake trout inside the Boundary Waters. He did a lot of that work with Matt Wierzba, who is now the Finland Area Fisheries Supervisor over in Lake County in the central part of the Boundary Waters. For about a decade, Matt was the Assistant Fisheries Supervisor in the Grand Marais office for the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. I had a chance to talk with Matt about some of the work that they do with splake and to learn a bit more about working with Ryan.
Matt Wierzba, Finland Area Fisheries Supervisor for Minnesota DNR.
Well, let's just start with splake. What is the general angler mentality about splake? Like, what do you hear from people about why they go after them?
Probably number one is their excellent table fare. They're very active during the wintertime, so they support winter fisheries on a number of our stock stream trout lakes. Anglers just really want to get after them in the winter. You know, there's not a lot of panfish opportunities up here. Walleye fishing generally slows down in the Northeast, so splake are highly valued by them and often targeted. You know, we manage a lot of lakes inland for brook trout. Splake are, of course, a hybrid between lake trout and brook trout, and they really comprise kind of the qualities of both species in terms of like the temperature tolerance of brook trout being a little bit more suitable for warmer environments, not necessarily hot, but you know, they can handle a little bit warmer temperatures than lake trout. And because lake trout have those highly restrictive habitat requirements, there's a lot of lakes that we just can't manage for lake trout in. So it's kind of the happy medium between the species.
Mm-hmm. How about just like a family that walks in on vacation into the Finland office or something and they see splake on the wall, like they literally have never even heard of the fish, you know? Or how common is it that you've been asked, what's a splake?
Yeah, they're definitely curious what it's all about. You know, it's not a trout species that is considered native anywhere. It's a manufactured species, so it's an opportunity to provide some insight and knowledge for them and why it might be worth their effort to target splake.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, let's step away from that and talk a little bit about the character that is Ryan, the Assistant Fisheries Supervisor down there at the Peterson office. What's been your interactions with him over the years?
I spent about a decade working for Minnesota DNR Fisheries out of the Grand Marais office, and for a majority of that time we were doing a spawn take on Mountain Lake for egg resources for the lake trout production program. So Ryan was a regular coming up to help us with that operation, and we got to know each other pretty well and had some good times out on Mountain Lake in mid to late October, enjoying the random weather events that we would get, and yeah, just getting through it.
Would you guys camp on those outings?
No, it was a day trip operation going through Clearwater Lake, so lots of logistics involved between getting nets out there and all the equipment we needed to do the spawning operation, and then ultimately hauling the fertilized eggs out back through Mountain Lake and Clearwater, and then getting them down to southeast Minnesota, the Peterson Fish Hatchery, where they are raised. So one advantage for managing with splake on a stream trout lake is that they generally have a little bit longer of a life history. Brook trout are usually surviving for about 3 to 4, maybe 5 years in the best of our stream trout lakes. And splake generally will survive for 5 to 7, maybe 8 years. So that provides them an opportunity to grow for a little bit longer. So if we think about some of our best brook trout lakes, a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old might be 18 to 20 inches, and some of the best splake lakes in northeast Minnesota, a 5 to 7 or 8-year-old splake might be 20 to 25 inches.
Nice. Yeah, where do I find those?
That's information I can't disclose.
Back down at the hatchery near Lanesboro and Peterson, Ryan says that working along the Root River in the bluff country of southeastern part of the state is a wonderful place to get to engage with trout that eventually find their way up to the boundary waters. It seems like there's a lot of interest statewide in splake.
Yeah, I think so. So, being in the southeast, we raise them, but we don't hear a lot about them. And we have good communication with fisheries offices, and it seems like there is a big fun fishery up there when it comes to winter fishing, and then sometimes some backcountry summer fishing. So it's a really good fishery. They grow fast, they bite well, hopefully, and they are good to eat, maybe.
Very good to eat, definitely. So what's a little bit about you? Like, where'd you grow up, and how'd you get into this career?
I'm from central Wisconsin area, did my undergraduate in Stevens Point, fisheries management major with an aquaculture minor. Then after graduation, I moved out west, worked in southern Utah for a few years, some on the Colorado River with non-native or native species, and then worked in a hatchery with some of the native cutthroat, brook trout, splake, tiger trout, kind of the things that we're doing here. And then upon I got hired here with the Minnesota DNR, and I love the job. It's like we were just talking on this walk, you see nature every day. You walk in, there's kingfisher on the stream bank, there's eagles flying over your head, there's geese honking, you hear the whistles of the wood ducks. There's no better career that I would want to be in than fisheries. So. And Minnesota's a great state. The DNR is good to work with, and even that's why we do it too. Is the people that come here see the excitement on their face when they see the fish, or when we show up at a boat ramp and see there's a big biomass of fish going in the lake. So it keeps the fuel driving to show up to work every day.
Huge thanks to Ryan. All that knowledge, all that enthusiasm, all that experience and expertise. And, it is nice living in the sticks. And whether you're hunting or fishing or swimming or romping in the woods, it's all in the Paddle and Portage family. We appreciate you, Ryan.
Appreciate you too, Matt. Thanks for meeting up, sharing a little more local perspective about these splake that find their way up here to the edge of the boundary waters. And I think that was the most interesting thing for me, LB, was seeing the tens of thousands of little splake, and then not only that, to get to meet their parents. Like those 7-year-old lake trout swimming around in the tank. It was just like, oh man,
yeah.
Look at those big. He's even like, look at these big old Lakers in here.
Wow. Yeah, they're little grandmommy, grandpappies, like the OGs. The OGs.
It's a really cool facility, and we would be remiss not to point out that it is open to the public, and Ryan and the other crew, Sean, the lead fishery supervisor there at the Peterson Fish Hatchery, that door's open, and go check it out for yourself. I mean, that's what the facility's about, and you can't maybe get quite as up close and personal as that we got to experience, but you can get in there, and they want you to come check it out.
Well, I think put that on your road trip list for folks who are getting antsy this spring. And speaking of spring, this lake's looking a lot different than when we were here last. Crusty, crunchy, icy, and spring will sprung. Spring is sprunging. Sprung is spring.
If we had the auger, it'd be three. I bet 20 inches for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know we got a ways to go. Fishing openers on the horizon, but crossing our fingers that the temperatures turn and some good rain hits. But I will say all the songbirds are now here, which is a good sign. It's a sign of things to come.
The other day I had a songbird at 5:12 in the morning. I had just gotten back from the fish hatchery. Drove back, so I had a longer day on the road. Get back at 5:12. I remember looking at my phone, pick it up. And it's kind of light, not really light, but kind of light. And the bird's singing. I'm like so confused. I was like, is it 5 in the afternoon? How long have I been asleep? Oh, it's spring.
It's spring. Enjoy it, y'all.
Like to sing when I paddle canoe, feeling not thinking if the strokes are true. We're gonna get through to the other side. Out in the night, the waves beat the shore. You can hear them pounding, you can hear them roar. Oh, roll me, rock me in my dreams. You can roll me, rock me in my dreams. So I like to sing, I love to dance. I play the fool if I got the chance. All around the campfire light, all around campfire light, all round, all round, all round the campfire light.
Joe Fredericks here with the Paddle and Portage Podcast. If you liked this episode about splake, be sure to check out the video that goes with it. You can find it at paddleandportage.com or on our YouTube page, Paddle and Portage on YouTube. Subscribe to that channel for free and check out the splake video. It's a tour with Ryan around the Peterson Fish Hatchery. It was a day before those tornadoes came rolling through. Actually, it was the day of those tornadoes. Recent tornadoes in southeastern Minnesota. Sort of navigating that when I was leaving the hatchery. No tornadoes in the video, just the hatchery tour from Ryan. So check that out, Paddle and Portage YouTube channel or at the website paddleandportage.com. Appreciate you.